Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you're listening to Watch This List. This is actually I suppose not a special edition exactly, but a new series that I am launching, lovingly, affectionately called Watch This List Unplugged. And I'm going to explain this a little bit on Letterboxd for those of you who are my friends on there, just like Frank is. But this is going to be a stripped down version of my regular show. They're going to be 30-minute episodes instead of feature length, like hour and 10. We won't ask Frank for his opinion, even though he just gave it. And each episode is going to be one new one in a series I am calling Insomnia Cinema. It is a collection of midnight movies, the first of which is Frank's pick, which is the 2009 Australian film, The Loved Ones. But before we get to that, I thought it would be fun to ask Frank a related question, because I always end with a questionnaire. So this time I'm going to begin with one. It's going to be one question. Question is, Frank, what is your favorite slasher movie? Also, hi. Hi.
Yeah.
Having you back?
Yeah. Let me be the guinea pig once again.
Yes. Anytime I do anything new ever, Frank is going to be the first. So if you ever see his face, you'll know that I'm up to an experimental phase.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be a part of your future podcast empire.
Yeah.
My favorite slasher. I'm learning to like slashers more and more in recent years. But it's never been my favorite type of horror movie. But the ones I love, I definitely love. And Black Christmas is easily my favorite pure slasher for sure. I love that movie a lot. I think it's definitely one of the best horror movies ever made, and like a perfectly constructed movie outside of anything to do with horror. So and pretty scary.
Do you watch it at Christmas? Or do you watch it? Or, I mean,
I've
is
also
it
watched it in July? Like I'm
okay?
Not a person that's like must have my tradition and stick to the holy whatever. I'll watch it whenever I feel like it because I think it's great no matter what.
Yeah, I feel like that's not necessarily Black Christmas is not necessarily one that people watch at Christmas. They still do it like during October.
Right. But I feel like those are still the two times most common. And I definitely made my dad watch it with me in July once because I was like, you might like this. Come on. And he did.
How did he react?
Yeah, he thought it was really, really good, actually.
Oh, okay.
Usually hates every random thing I try to get him to watch.
I can relate to this feeling sometimes, just sometimes.
I think that the slasher most like The Loved Ones is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is one that I still do like a lot, but isn't one of my all-time favorites. And I kind of actually prefer The Loved Ones, to be honest.
Wow, strong statement there.
Yeah.
I also was just thinking too. To add to this, there will be no editing of this series. Mm-hmm. So Frank and I are, I don't want to say necessarily uncut, but this is like whatever we say is going to be on this thing. I do not have an editor anymore for my show. So this is going to be just as is, which should enable me to do a couple of probably more frequently than I have been.
Yeah.
Since I'm just going to send this out and hope that people enjoy it.
Are you literally posting this tomorrow? Like maybe?
Yeah. Today is Thursday. It is 10:41 p.m., which is another goal of this is to film late at night since we are talking about midnight movies.
Yeah, you can't really tell.
You can't really tell, but I'm telling everybody it's late on Thursday. And I suppose also if any of you are interested, email me and we can chat. but Frank's the first, so we're here to talk about The Loved Ones. Frank,
Wait, Amy, what's your email? You can't say email me and then not say the email.
watchthislistpodcast@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. What would I do without you, Frank?
I don't know. Nothing
I'm
good.
more organized than Frank is, but he is on top of it today.
Yeah.
So Frank, set this movie up for us. This is when I pitched this idea to Frank, he said that there was only one answer to the Midnight movie. And he said it was The Loved Ones, which I'd never heard of in my life, and directed by Sean Byrne. It was released actually in 2009, but the American version of it, or what have you, release was 2012.
Yeah. And well, first of all, when you first texted me about this, you specifically said do I have a list of movies that are good for watching after midnight? And my brain jumped to like late night, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. cinema. And that's what I think The Loved Ones is the perfect thing of. I mean, this is just like an obnoxious way of still calling it a midnight movie for sure. But this is like my primetime example, because I feel like it feels a little delirious.
Mm-hmm.
There are crazier movies, there's gorier movies, there's more disturbing movies, there's more successful slashers, there's more successful gore movies. Like, it's not necessarily the best at any one thing, but I feel like it's this really weird amalgamation of types of horror movies that's played with like super like seriously, even when being kind of absurd or funny. And I think that like straight-laced tone creates a delirious feeling when like one scene it's kind of like an 80s teen comedy, and then the next scene you're watching somebody's head get drilled, and it's like, right, what am I literally doing here right now? And the first 2 times I saw it, definitely both times when it ended, I could hear birds starting to chirp outside, and it was like light was coming up soon, and I was like, yeah, that's what this movie's for. Is like, how am I still awake? Why did I turn this on? What
am I doing with my life?
What
questioning
am I doing with my life?
Your choices. How did you get here?
Which is
existential crisis.
Which is like one of the pillars of a midnight movie. I think there's a couple distinct ones, and that's definitely one of them. I mean, the overarching thing of a midnight movie, right, in my mind, is something. Just the connotation of it is like, you don't want the average person to walk into this movie. Anybody going to a midnight movie is on there on purpose. Like, you don't accidentally go to a movie at midnight. Like, you could accidentally walk into a movie at 6 p.m. because let's go see a movie. And a midnight movie is something that's like more for a specialized audience in whatever way. So extreme horror, fun horror, whatever, is definitely one of those core pillars of midnight.
Would you say it's like, I mean, when I looked up this term, because I'm obviously not like super well versed in this category, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. Besides the fact that it's fun, I'm going to be recording late at night. The vibe of Unplugged, it kind of fits in with that aesthetic, I feel.
Totally.
But then also, I was reading about like how it's defined, and it's oftentimes cult classics, right? So when we were talking earlier, I was saying like Eraserhead or Rocky Horror Picture Show.
The two, like, I feel like best
El Topo,
examples.
Topo.
Which I do love.
Movies that I don't like is another way to say how to define this.
So did you not like The Loved Ones? Oh, man. I still don't know.
No. Okay, so, no. So I suppose this needs to be set up somewhat. So this is an Australian film, which I think to me makes it even more strange. Nothing against Australians, of course, but it just sounds, it makes it seem like a foreign film, in a way that like Audition kind of does, or like where I feel like I'm transported somewhere else, so that to a place where these things could happen.
It definitely feels like a alternate universe of our version of like the Deep South or something, like pure redneck, deep woods, whatever. It's whatever this like other side of the world's version of that is. for sure.
Yeah. So, and it's about teenagers, prom night. We won't spoil anything because I'm still anti-spoiler no matter what crazy ideas in my head about what I'm doing.
We can set it up though, because this isn't a well-known movie, you know? Like, do you
Okay,
mind
set it
if
up
I
without
do?
spoiling.
Just the movie starts with our protagonist driving a car with his dad. They get in a car accident, dad dies. It's opening scene, whatever. 6 months later, teenager's real angsty and emo and loves his metal music and harming himself and stuff and all this jazz. And it's pretty serious and like seems depressing. And then it's prom night, like it's the end of the day, and he gets asked to prom by a gal, Lola Stone, the prom queen forever, my prom queen forever,
Frank's version. Yes.
And he says, no, sorry, I'm going with my girlfriend, like, thanks though. And then yeah, he doesn't get a chance to go to prom with his girlfriend because Lola's dad is going to make sure Lola has the night of her life. So
right, a night to remember.
That's the general setup. And then there's like B and C plots of people looking for his mom and girlfriend looking for him, and also his best friend who does go to prom with a girl who also has connectivity to the plot. So yeah, that's the general setup. Nice little total horror movie setup. I think from that setup and the poster and stuff, people seem to, and I was just skimming Letterboxd reviews, you know, because it's not super well loved for some reason.
Even though it has like a high critical rating, actually.
Yeah, it's one of the highest reviewed horror movies ever or something.
Yeah, it was like at 98%. Yeah. And then I was looking at the, like it didn't do super well at the box office.
No.
It kind of tanked, but then it got a following when it came out.
I think people expect something campier just by like nature of assumptions and marketing or whatever. And it's devoid of camp, like pretty much. It gets wacky and absurd, but it never feels like a campy joke. Like even the funny stuff barely feels like a joke. You know, I don't know how to describe it. So I think it can be off-putting not knowing what to expect, which is why I keep trying to be like Texas Chainsaw is way more a comparison point than I can't even think of an example. Slumber Party Massacre. You know, that's totally not this vibe. That's total camp. But,
well, and I suppose in a way, I think maybe one of the strengths of the movie is the contrast where you're going from this sort of like torture element and then going back to just a regular date. And then the juxtaposition between the two things. But Frank, you also are like a big fan of music too, which you are incessantly discussing. So what is it about that you really like?
I feel like metal is like the one genre of music at this point I don't listen to or really know much about at all. So I don't even know if this is like, I know nothing about the music in this movie, but I feel like it's used super well for characterization and emotion, and not just for the metal music that the main character listens to. Like the score's super weird and interesting and feels like experimental in a weird way. And then there's also like a great 80s banger to open it. And there's like the funniest song I've ever heard in a movie, maybe ever, that has been repeating in my head a little bit since we've been sitting here. Which I was convinced was written for the movie, and then only thought it was even funnier when I found out it wasn't. That it's
an actual song.
It's an actual song. It's so ridiculous. I'm like, this can't be a real song, and it is. It sure is.
So this is I would say in some, okay, this is like a wild, crazy, unexpectedly, I mean, you said you didn't feel like it was very gory. I thought it was pretty.
Well, it's super gory. It is super gory.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's super violent.
I've definitely seen more violent and more gory. So I just meant like it. I don't think it's because it's like the peak of this type of movie in any specific way. That's all. It definitely goes to some really like disturbed places. Very, matter of factly. And I think that's why I dig it so much. And it's not afraid to like unhinge itself even further. Like it
Mm-hmm.
gets to a point where it seems like, oh, I don't know, this might be running out of steam. Like, how much further could you really take this? I already elaborated that there's some skull drilling, you know? Like, and then it does. It's like, hey, how about this now? And it's like, Jesus. It's a movie unafraid to make you just consistently be like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah, I know there's 20 minutes left, but how about this curveball? You know?
And I will say that when I think one of your reviews, because you reviewed this multiple times, but you were also saying that you didn't watch it, you were watching it high. So another
Yeah.
thing about this is just, I'm sure I will run into this the more people I talk to about midnight movies, but there is this sort of like state of consciousness that I think is beneficial for this sort of experience. If you can be in that kind of weird state between like being really tired but still being awake, and then trying to process intense extremity.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like what am I seeing right now? And then it keeps on amping up in this example, where it seems to tap into different stuff out of nowhere, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what? So in that way, it's fun.
I think on rewatches too, all the pieces feel really well thought out and like do blend together to like tell a story, like I said, removed from genre completely, weirdly, even though it's like a hyper horror movie for sure. And I don't know, I guess I do just want to emphasize two things that I feel like I haven't done enough of, is that Lola is just like all-time crazy antagonist, just like, oh, like clearly insane from the moment she walks on screen and like shuffles up to him and like whispers like, will you go to prom with me, to like, you know, everything she does, like just like in a committed, which is like maybe a staple of this type of horror movie. You want a committed, memorable, over the top antagonist.
Psychopath.
Yeah. And she totally is like one of the all time to me. Like she's so deranged. And Dad is a perfect henchman, disgusting, don't even like looking at him. Like, yeah. And
well, and I think, well, before you move on to that, to your next part, I do think that a female psychopath is far more frightening than male. I don't know, like, and it seems like in horror, there's, that's more common than not. Like in straight dramas and stuff like that, it's usually not female that's, or a woman that's the bad guy. But there is something visceral about, and sort of like very unpredictable, like with women being the ones that are deranged and unhinged and sort of like scorned or wronged in some way.
Totally. And even more so having it still be a Scream King instead of a, like, it's not, I feel like even often with a crazy woman character, like often they have her targeting other women, or it's like erotic thrillers where it's Fatal Attraction or whatever, which
or
is
Basic Instinct,
right? Which is like it's a whole other thing entirely.
Yeah,
but
yeah. This I'm just thinking of like when the woman is the one that's doing the revenge or the harm or whatever.
Yeah, and she's, I mean, like I said, she's fantastic. And and the other thing,
Frank's type.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead with your second point.
Hold on about that one. I don't know about that one there, though. Maybe not. What I feel like we've all known a Lola, though.
Yeah,
that's why I think it's so funny and fun, but also horrifying about the movie. It's just like, you know, if I found out that person did this
that you knew in high school,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Okay, what was your other point, Frank, before I interrupted you?
Just that it's, you know, without me thinking too hard about it or looking deep for backing up evidence right now, just I feel like a general strength of maybe the horror movies I do like is when they are based around I guess that's all of them though. I don't know how to word this correctly. It feels very like survival oriented and
Mm-hmm.
focused in a way that feels more uplifting toward the victim of the horror movie. Like it's like a person actually trying to be like give a fighting chance to get out of their situation, opposed to just like a person waiting to be a victim. And I think that might actually be what differentiates me liking or not liking a horror movie, because
Mm-hmm.
who just wants to wait for a victim to die? That sucks a little bit in my book. I like characters who are, yeah, survival oriented, I suppose. But then again, isn't that every final girl? The point is, this feels like that's like all that's on its mind, though. Is like it's like deranged gal in like walking embodiment of survival instinct, which is our main guy, and just like the amount of attention it goes into building that in him and then focusing that like those moments of defiance in him in his situation. It's like, yeah, there's something really metal about it. Like it does feel like a pretty metal movie actually in that sense too, where it's like, yeah, even at the most extreme kind of fuck you, like I don't know.
Well, and also it's not just
Oh,
random people that we're like just waiting for them to die one by
right,
one.
right,
This is kind of nice in that sense.
right,
That's
which
why I kind of feel like it's not a slasher, and because of that, really.
yeah,
But it's
it's in a zone. It's a hodgepodge. It's definitely a
yeah,
hodgepodge. It's
yeah.
definitely deep woods, gory, like it's a borderline torture porn movie, but like I think it's better than every other famous torture porn movie, like for sure, even though I think it'd probably fit in that genre. Or it's
Mm.
like maybe closer to the French extremity like type movies a little bit, but way more fun than those. Because like as even though it's disturbing and messed up, I do have a good time watching this movie because it's so ridiculously crazy.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna say watch this movie. I am going to be on a journey with this series where I'm gonna watch a bunch of stuff that I probably not only would not watch, but have never heard of in my life. So I'm looking forward to it. And then one thing Frank and I thought of, I'm going to test this out and see if this works,
Mm-hmm.
is at the end of each of these things, we're going to say, how midnight is this movie? So if we had to put a time on the loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
what would be the perfect time? And then I am going to be in search of the one that I feel like actually meets the criteria exactly. So Frank, before I go, how midnight is this
Are
movie?
you gonna reveal how you feel about it as a whole? Because you still really haven't.
I'm about
Okay,
to.
okay, okay. I kind of spoiled it in my preamble. This is a 3 to 4 a.m. movie for me, which I don't know exactly. This is the like the midnight crowd is jazzed after their midnight movie, screaming for an encore, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just throw this one on, and then they'll regret screaming for an encore or be like, this is the exact thing I wanted. So I think it's
Okay.
it's like a dessert movie almost, but. Yeah.
I'm going to say actually the opposite. As inexperienced as I am, um, I'm going to say that I think this is a before midnight movie. Um,
Crazy.
and this is sort of just like gut feeling, hard to describe sort of
Sure.
thing. But I think for vibe wise, this is like a 10 p.m. flick to me. And
We're,
then I go to bed.
we're on the
Uh,
opposite ends
like,
of the spectrum.
yeah, of course, which makes sense because that's our friendship. But yeah, I think that this is one that it's like, when it's not enough of like a fever dream, um, dream state, sort of dream logic film that I would associate with that time frame. But I understand that this is just going to be subjective all the way through. So
Yeah, of
I'm going to say
course.
10 p.m.
Okay.
I'm going to say 10 p.m. for this.
But did you like it?
I did like it. I didn't love it,
Yeah,
but I
that's
liked
fine.
it.
I knew
I
I didn't think you'd love it.
I will say this though, the thing that is going to stay with me the most The lead actor's name is Xavier Samuel, like the actor's real name, and in the movie his name is Samuel. His screams are super visceral and like very like with his entire being, and that like haunted me. Like that when I watched this last night late, and when I went to bed I felt like I could still hear him in there.
And they do something with his screams that is like still one of the most casually fucked up things I've seen in a movie. There's a lot of casually fucked up things in this movie that are like, wow, have I seen that in another movie? Huh.
Yeah. It's definitely worth watching, but not one of Amy's faves.
I guess the deliriousness is, you're right, because it is so pitched in reality. To me, it's like, that's why it feels delirious and dreamy, because it is so real, but it's like, what? Yeah, I don't know. No, I think you're probably more right, but I'm going to stick with my answer.
Okay. So we got 10 p.m.
or 3 a.m.
10 p.m. or 3 a.m. You decide. Frank, thank you for being with me. We're already done. And
this is nothing.
I hope that everybody enjoys this series. Let me know if you want to be on it. There is more to come. And
can I be on it again?
Frank can be on it again as long as he doesn't pick El Topo or Jodorowsky just in general.
Okay. Your audio cut out, so I don't know what you just said, but you can still run us out.
See you at the movies.